Hello! As you can tell by the title, I'll be doing something a little different in this video, and I have a lot of ground to cover with this topic, so this will just be the first part. But today I will be casting The Sims. I've had a spreadsheet going for this idea for a while, so I did check to see if anyone else had done this already, and my stomach dropped a bit when I saw Fake Gamer Girl has a video called The Sims Movie Cast Revealed, but I watched that and it's not meant to be serious. She just does a handful of characters, and it's joke casting. I won't give any of those away because that would spoil the jokes for anyone who hasn't seen that video, but I'm taking this seriously, probably too seriously, so I think I'm in the clear since this is a very different project. First, let's set the stage. With the multi-generational storylines and dozens of unique characters and families, there's a lot of material to work with in the Sims universe, so I think it would be better suited to an anthology series than a movie. I'm thinking 6 to 10 episodes per season, plan for 2 seasons, always plan for at least 2 up front. I know we've all been burned by shows that resolved all the character arcs and storylines prematurely. But anyway, 2 seasons, so 12 to 20 episodes for our main storyline, with the seasons probably separated by pre- and post-Bella disappearance. And then I think Strangetown would have to be either a spin-off or its own dedicated season because it's so rich but so wild. The show would have to have a big ensemble cast, so at least in the beginning of the seasons, I think it would probably be easiest to go the route taken by shows like Skins and, to a lesser degree, Atlanta, where you have a lot of single character episodes which spend most of the time on one character or one family or one relationship. It's an easy way to get the audience up to speed on each of the characters before you zoom out and see the full intermeshing of all their storylines. But it would also serve to mimic the experience of playing the game, since you can only control one family at a time. I'm not going to give too many notes on what I think the actual plot should be. That kind of thing is more suited to big brain YouTubers like Jenny Nicholson and Mike's Mike. I'm just the casting director. So here's what I'm looking for in the cast. I want people who can play both comedy and drama, but will 100% commit to every scene regardless of how ridiculous it is, because with The Sims, it will inevitably be a little campy, and you can't have camp if it seems like the actor thinks the scene is supposed to be played like a joke. I'm also looking for people that give me Sims vibes, which to me means like they can be a little kooky, a little goofy, but I'm also afraid to know what goes through their mind when they're on edibles. And then finally, if they look like a Sim, particularly the exaggerated angular features of Sims 2 Sims, that helps as well. The Sims that would be central to the plot would mostly be from families that have some presence in more than one generation of the game. Chronologically, the order is Sims 3 first, then 1, then 2. 4 does pull characters from the other generations, such as the Goths and the Landgrabs, but it isn't canon, so I probably won't include too many original characters from 4, though we will have one in this episode. What I'll be covering in this video are the side characters, which include families that are very distinctive but only prominent in one generation of the game, NPCs, townies, and celebrities. These characters will be crucial to world building, but they won't necessarily have many lines or be central to the plot. I'll start us off with one of our single game families, the Burbs, which only appear actually placed in a neighborhood in The Sims 1, although the son Johnny's family with Jennifer Pleasant is in the family bin in The Sims 2. The Burb family consists of married couple Brad and Tiffany, their son Johnny, and their dog Tucker. I think the Burbs would be a good family for the opening shots of the series because they are very classic Americana in their presentation, with the white picket fence, the golden retriever, the boy in the baseball cap, etc. So they would set the tone that we are in an idealized suburb that may or may not be a superficially pleasant facade for a place where some twisted stuff is going on behind closed doors, both in terms of the storyline and honestly the way we all play this game sometimes. With regard to both their profiles and their aesthetics, Brad and Tiffany are pretty much cast into traditional gender roles. Brad starts the game out with level 4 mechanical skill, giving us the impression that he quote-unquote works with his hands. His profile states that he moved the family out of the city in search of peace and quiet, and that his interests include weeding, watering, and soup. He's got a bit of a weathered face and a pretty stern expression, and he's dressed for outdoor work with boots, blue jeans, and a flannel button-up. He has no job, but there are garden plots in their backyard suggesting he's planning to farm the land. Tiffany, on the other hand, is employed as a department store clerk in the fashion career track. She seems pretty invested in her appearance. She's got classic 80s pale blue eyeshadow and red lips, blonde hair, large earrings, and her everyday outfit is what looks like a pink Chanel suit. Her bio states that she does not share Brad's love of nature and is an expert shopper who knows all the latest styles. There are a lot of bits of finery around their house, the drapes, a statue, a grandfather clock, that are likely her influence on the interior design, and their bedroom in particular seems to be a reflection of her personal style. And then we have Johnny, who's just a typical boy. He's got the backwards ball cap, the red polo with matching boots and denim overalls. When you start the game, his closest relationship is with the dog Tucker, which is a sweet detail, and his bio states that he loves frogs, mud, and playing with his friends. Okay, starting with Brad. For this role, I'm going with someone who actually looks exactly like Brad Burb, just a few years younger, though that's not the main reason I chose this actor. I think he can pull off the stoic, man of few words thing pretty well, and also commit to the character without making it goofy, and that actor is Michael Shannon. He's in a bunch of stuff. The first thing I kinda took note of him in was Take Shelter, which I really liked at the time, but I haven't seen it in over a decade at this point, so I can't vouch for whether or not it holds up. But I think even if you just watch the trailer for it, you can see why Michael Shannon would be a really good Brad Burb. Next up, Tiffany. For this one, I'm going with Andrea Riseborough. She's not American, she's English, so maybe not the most natural choice for a model of American suburbia, but I wasn't distracted by any accent in her performances in Mandy or To Leslie, in which she plays Americans. She's also in Waco with Michael Shannon, but I haven't seen that yet, so I can't weigh in. But anyway, I think she could successfully play this role straight, with maybe a little quiet rage, because I do imagine Tiffany would be a bit resentful of having to leave the city. We might want to age her up a bit with hair and makeup to get the right vibe for Tiffany. Riseborough is 41, but no one ages these days, especially actresses. My runner-up for this role was Judy Greer, who I love, but her voice and affect are so distinctive, I'm not sure I could see her as a sim, since on some level, they are empty vessels for our desires. And I also think the opening shots should set just a slightly unsettling tone, and her presence might be a little comforting. And last for the Burbs, we have Johnny. So the thing about children is they don't stay children for very long. So at least in my own experience as a 32-year-old lady, when I was thinking of great child actor performances, if I go and look them up now, they're like 20-something, and a lot of them don't act anymore. I didn't want to ignore the child roles altogether, and for the younger characters that are more central to the plot, I will be using kids I've seen in stuff that I know can act. But for side characters, I decided to turn to toy commercial compilation videos as a way to review a concentrated amount of media for children without having to, watch children's programming. The experience of watching these videos is like having a Disney princess yell at you for 12 minutes straight, but it was worth it because I think I found a good Johnny Burb in this Lego Technic commercial. I don't know if he speaks English because he has no lines, which is apparently pretty typical for toy commercials. And the narration was, I think, in German, but it's possible the actual footage was shot elsewhere. But anyway, he brought a lot of personality and energy to the project, so the role of Johnny Burb goes to Lego Technic Commercial Boy. So here's our final Burb family. Moving on to our next family, the Hick family. This household also appears only in The Sims 1, again in Old Town, which comes with the Sims Unleashed pack. I'm not sure when these guys would appear within the show, but I think it would have to be pretty early on because much like how the Burbs visually set us up in this picturesque suburbia, I think the Hicks would be used to signal that even in this idealized world there is a perceived right and wrong side of the tracks, and the series will be following stories of families on both sides. The Hicks live in what might be a manufactured home. It's long and narrow, so it looks like it could fit on the back of a big rig. They've got a large, unkempt yard with a pinball machine, likely for Eldon as he's a pinball enthusiast, and an oven, which is technically functional, but you get what the Sims team was going for there. It's one of those homes where the outdoor space becomes a graveyard for things that you can't let go of because they might be worth something if only they worked. The family consists of the matriarch Mama, her adult son Eldon, and their 3 dogs, Bobo, Duke, and Leroy. When you start the game, Mama is employed as a dishwasher in the culinary arts career track, and Eldon is unemployed, although his profile states that he is a hard worker, in addition to being a fan of pinball and classical music. Mama's profile explains that once upon a time she was Miss Sim City, but she's since lost all of her savings to a psychic phone scammer. So for these guys, you could just go with Mac and Mac's mom from It's Always Sunny, but we are doing prestige television here, and I don't want to transplant a piece of another show onto this one. That being said, I did go with, I think, kind of an obvious choice for Mama Hick, which is Frances McDormand. You know, she can play a believable, rural, straight-talking kind of character when given a decent script and direction. I did not like 3 Billboards, but obviously she's fantastic in Fargo. I really liked her in Nomadland, so I think she's a natural fit for this role. And then for Eldon, initially I wanted to go with John Hawkes. I think he could have brought a lot of depth and sympathy to the character, but he's only 2 years younger than Frances McDormand, which might not bother some real casting directors, but I don't think it works. So anyway, I thought maybe we'll lean into more of a slimy yet charming and cultured vibe for Eldon. Being unemployed and living at home, he does likely have a lot of free time to build up his classical music knowledge, maybe read philosophy, practice pickup lines, etc. So I went with someone who can do slimy exceptionally well, and that is Paul Dano. And hopefully I don't need to clarify this, but I don't mean that as an insult, just praise of his ability to play a convincing charlatan. So here's our final Hick family, and that's it for the side character families. Next up we'll be casting some celebrities. Unlike The Sims 1, which had real famous people like Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah McLachlan walking around Studio Town, I want to make sure that The Sims show feels like a totally separate universe from ours. So if one of the characters is going to a concert or has a poster on their wall or is reading a tabloid, it should all be musicians and actors within The Sims universe that are featured. These characters wouldn't necessarily have many lines if they have any at all, but they're important for world building. First off, we have DeAndre Wolfe. He is a lead guitarist in the rock branch of the music career track in The Sims 3, and a playable character in the Twinbrook neighborhood with a pretty big mansion, so clearly he's quite successful. He's 11 days away from the Elder Life stage when you first start the game in The Sims 3, so he's been around the block and is beyond his best new artist stage of life. This role will be played by Andre Benjamin, better known as Andre 3000 of Outcast, but he's an actor as well. He's actually in the latest Kelly Reichardt movie showing up, which was better than I expected based on the trailer, so if that was holding you back, but you usually like her films, maybe give it a chance. I get the feeling Andre is pretty selective with the projects he takes on, so if we can't get him, I think Lakeith Stanfield could also pull this role off, but he'd need to be aged up a bit. Okay, moving on. So, outside of the celebrities in The Sims 1, the Sims team has occasionally thrust real-life pop culture artifacts onto the game, typically to the disappointment of most Sims players. One of the silliest instances of this was the Katy Perry's Sweet Treats Stuff Pack and Katy Perry Collector's Edition of the Showtime expansion pack for The Sims 3, which I feel like we're far enough away from now to mostly just find funny, so as a nod to those, we'll have a Katy Perry-inspired pop star in this show, not actually Katy Perry because again, this is a different universe. I'll call her Kitty Pink because Kitty Purry is too on the nose, but I will be on the nose with the casting, as this role would be played by Zooey Deschanel. Again, I don't think this character would necessarily have lines, but she may appear in a poster or on stage singing while Angela Pleasant is at a concert or something. And then for our last celebrity, I wanted an actor from the Sims universe so that if there's a scene that takes place in a movie theater or there's a magazine on a kitchen table, the featured star is a known Sim. This is the one original character I'll be taking from The Sims 4 in this video. It's Judith Ward. I don't have background footage of her because I don't actually have the Get Famous expansion pack. While I like Fame gameplay in The Sims 1 where you have to go to Studio Town and do the little gigs, I found it mostly annoying in 3, so I haven't invested in this pack yet. Let me know in the comments if it's worth it. But I am familiar with this woman because I watch Sims YouTubers and she appears in a lot of videos. Usually they're complaining about the design of her house or the fact that she shows up everywhere all the time in contexts that make no sense for a 5-star celebrity, and I kind of like that, probably just because I don't have to experience it myself. But anyway, for this one, since she'd mostly just be featured in the background or in images, I wanted someone who really looked the part of a movie star and could pull off that classic old Hollywood glamour styling, so Judith Ward would be played by Sherilyn Fenn. She's probably best known for her role as Audrey Horne in Twin Peaks, but you might also recognize her as Sasha or Anna Nardini from Gilmore Girls. And that's it for our celebrities, so moving on to NPCs and townies. Our first NPC is much more than an NPC because she's actually a playable character with backstory in some generations, but you know her, you love her, you've likely been assaulted by her. It's Agnes Crumplebottom. This character is the one exception to the side character label of this video because she would likely be more central to the plot of the show. Agnes was first introduced as the NPC Miss Crumplebottom in the Sims 1 Hot Date expansion pack. She has a fixation on public displays of affection and will scold you or hit you with her purse if you engage in any flirtatious behavior in her presence, which to me smells like religious trauma, but when viewed through the lens of the backstory given to her younger self in The Sims 3, can also be interpreted as an inability to witness any visual evidence of romantic love after the loss of her husband, Erik Darling. With the unfinished nursery in Agnes's home in Sunset Valley, it's implied that she and Erik were planning to add a child to their family before his untimely death. The story in itself is compelling, but the primary reason why Agnes would need to be included in the main plotline is that she's the sister of Cornelia Goth, Mortimer Goth's mother, so she's tied to the iconic family that would inevitably be at the center of the plot of any adaptation of The Sims. For Agnes, I wanted just one actress who could carry the character through flashbacks of her time with Erik, to her Sims 3 mourning widow phase, all the way to the Sims 1 bitter, vindictive old woman phase. Makeup and prosthetics can accomplish a whole lot when it comes to aging a person up, and I think that would be less distracting than like swapping a character out for someone with a different face when they get older. So for the most part, I'll try to stick with the same actor for characters who change life phases. Unless it's an Amy March situation where they're going from like little children to full-grown adults, I'll use different actors for that. And to be clear, I'm not saying Florence Pugh didn't pull it off in Greta Gerwig's Little Women, but it's a risky move and you can't bank on getting Florence Pugh. But anyway, we need range for this role, and I'm going with an actress that I've actually only seen in one show, but she's really good in it. And that's Denise Goff, I might be saying that wrong, who you might recognize as Dedra Meero from Andor. I think she successfully plays a pretty terrible villain in that show, but does it sympathetically, and that's what we need for Agnes. Like I mentioned, I think it would be good to have flashbacks to her time with Erik in the show, so the audience can see a period of time when she was actually happy, so we do need to cast him as well. We're not given that much information about his backstory. He died by drowning while he and Agnes were on their honeymoon. He had the good sense of humor and friendly traits, so a pretty nice guy to hang out with, and he had blonde hair and blue eyes. For this role, I'm going with Jesse Plemons. I've seen him in a lot of stuff lately, and I found him really charming in Other People and Power of the Dog. I think he could play a very believable, romantic lead, and he also kind of has a Sims 2 sim face. I actually almost put him in the land grab family initially, but I'm going in a different direction. But anyway, here is our Agnes Crumplebottom and Erik Darling. Next up, I wanted to give a nod to the therapist that shows up in The Sims 2 when your Sims have a mental breakdown. I think in the show it would probably be played more realistically, like maybe one of the main characters is actually seeing their therapist in an office, but he'd be styled like a pared down version of the Sims 2 therapist with the red bow tie, the white button-up shirt, the center parted hair, and the glasses. Now I think the obvious choice for this one would be Eugene Levy, but I wanted to be a bit more subtle and give this role to someone who I think looks like a Sim, but not any of the main playable characters. He's got a bit of towny energy, and that's Danny Pudi of Community and Larry I'm on DuckTales fame. I think he just fits well in this universe. Again, we'd age him up a bit, give him some gray hair and whatnot, but he is our Sims 2 therapist. Sticking with The Sims 2, our next townie is just beloved for being very distinctive. It's Goopy Gilscarbo. He's a flirty guy, he's got the romance aspiration. I think he's mostly just memorable for his outfit really, with the western shirt, the plaid shorts, and the loafers. I don't think this combo would even stand out in the later games because the randomly generated Sims are always kind of wearing questionable outfits, but he was very unique in The Sims 2. For this role, I'm going with someone who just gives me Sims energy and who I wouldn't mind seeing in Goopy's outfit, and that's Kieran Culkin. I guess I should mention at this point, though it's pretty obvious, I'm not assuming any budget for this imaginary television show. We're only on the side characters and already in the millions here. Okay, bit of a random one up next, the Sims 3 Llama Mascot. These are featured in the university packs for both Sims 2 and 3. My vision for introducing this character would be in that signing up for things at a table scene that's in every movie and TV show in which a character goes to college. We'd probably have one of the Pleasant sisters or maybe Dirk Dreamer at the table, and then the llama would come into the frame and take the mask off for a second to say something out of pocket. This role would be played by Julio Torres. I haven't seen much of his work on SNL or Los Spookies, but based on his stand-up specials, I think he'd fit into the Sims universe pretty well. And our last townie for this video might be a controversial choice because it's not strictly canon, but it's Joy Despret, also known as Lakshmi Byall, the name given to this Sim in the game files. According to the Sims Wiki, her name is randomly generated when you create a new downtown for your neighborhood in The Sims 2. But she always looks like this. Joy Despret is just the name she's given in Juno Birch's game, and I really can't explain much more beyond that if you're not familiar with this character. Just check out a video if you're curious, but anyway. Joy Despret has made it into the Sims Wiki, so I think Juno Birch has earned the right to retroactively create Sims lore. Again, I'm not qualified to come up with the plot of this fictional show, but I think this character should be given the Heather Sinclair treatment. So you hear things about her throughout the season that she's in, but you never see her face until the season finale, so it's kind of a big reveal. And that face would be Kristen Stewart. With her name already being tied to a piece of very beloved IP, she's got a lot of star power, enough to justify the build-up to a big reveal. And while I haven't seen all of a Twilight movie or read the books, I just feel like there's something spiritually similar between Joy Despret and Bella Swan. I have no basis for this opinion. But anyway, that's our last character for this video. Let me know which ones you think I got wrong in the comments, especially if you have your own idea of who it should be. I'll probably have another video up in the next week or two, not necessarily the next installment in this series, but still within the Sims universe. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great week!